Hello everyone. So today we will talk about the ecological and economic values of wetlands. So wetlands are a rich ecosystem with a huge biodiversity of flora, fauna, microbes, uh, insects, fishes, mollusks. So there is a rich biodiversity that is found in wetlands, and they form together a food web in a very small area. So today we will see what are the economic and ecological values that we benefit from wetlands. So let's first see how wetland works. So what's important here is the wetland flora. They play a very important role, and the microbes associated with it. So you might have seen many rivers, many streams, waste, municipal wastes, uh, and many fertilizers, they get drained into the wetland. So what they do, they get settled down in the wetland, and here there is a formation of a peat, that is a saturated peat that forms underneath, and this is where the water get recharged. And when the water get recharged, so these can be dissipated in the form of clean water and gets released into the stream. That is how the cleaning of water takes place in wetlands. So let's see some of the ecological benefits. So like I had said, we'll talk about water filtration. So what happens in water filtration is when the water enters the wetland, so this water can be clean water, they can be flood water, they can be waste water, dirty water, municipal wastes. So a huge pollutants are present in this water. So what they do is they enter into the wetland. So this is where the settlement of the pollutants takes place, and the roots remove excess nutrients. The microbes, they help in the absorption of the pollutants. The microbes that may be present in the plant stem, they may be present in the uh, roots. They absorb the excess nutrients, and from the fertilizers, manure, from the septic tanks, municipal waste that enter the water enters into the such place. So they remove excess nutrients from these pollutants, and then a clean water can get dissipated into the stream from this place. So this is how water filtration is done in the wetland. Okay, again there is flood control. So how wetland acts as a flood control. So in floods, the water, they run in a high intensity. So when there is any flood happening, the flood water gets dissipated into the nearby vegetation of the wetlands, and here the water spreads out in a certain way that the intensity or the frequency of the intensity of floods, they can reduce it. And once the speed is reduced and it is spreaded in the wetlands, they again settle down the pollutants, and then this water can be converted or filtered into a clean water, and later can be passed down to the nearby streams. So this is how they control the flood water in an immediate way. So apart from this, there are many agriculture that can be done in wetlands. So we need to choose what kind of plants should be planted. We can go for rice. There are many species of rice, including the wild species. So we can cultivate wild species of rice, normal rice, reeds or grasses, or reeds are considered as the tall grasses that are grown in mass in the wetland region. So we can grow vegetables, we can grow medicinal plants, we can grow raw material plants for certain uses, for like cosmetics, decorative items, or building purposes. uh, so there can be many ways we can make the best use of wetlands. Okay, let's see some of the wild vegetables that are found from wetlands. So this is Ural ferox. The nut of the plant is eaten. So uh, you might have known this plant as makhana in our country. So this plant is not only important for us, but for the water birds also. So they feed on this plant, these nuts. So this is ecologically important in that aspect also. So let's see other vegetables. So this vegetable is Neptunia oleracea. So uh, Neptunia oleracea, it is a water mimosa. So when you touch this plant, the leaves of the will move, or like the mimosa plant. So in this water mimosa, the only difference is that there is a sponge covering on top of the stem. So as a vegetable, we need to remove the sponge part and cook it as vegetables. So this is one important vegetable from wetland. Again, this is Zizania latifolia. This is a tall grass, but the tuber part is removed. It is tender, and when it is cut, it looks like this, black inside, but they are fully edible, and they can be cooked, uh, and they are cooked as vegetables and found in market also. Okay, this is Hedychium coronarium. When you see the plant, it is you might not have any idea that this plant can give this kind of food, but the food, this is the rhizome that we take as vegetables. So the rhizome is flavorful and is taken as vegetables, and it is also one of the important medicinal plant. Okay, this is Alpinia nigra. uh, the stem of the Alpinia nigra, you need to take out the stem, remove the hard part, and keep the tender parts, and the tender part is taken as vegetables. So yes, this is one plant. Again, this is Oint javanica, or uh, the aquatic, or moist. It needs to be grown in a very moist area. So the whole plant except the roots are cut, and they can be taken as vegetables. They are sold in the market. I've seen it. So this is Amaranthus viridis, a very common wetland flora. They are taken as vegetables. You might have seen in markets also this plant. Okay, another plant is Polygonum barbatum. There are different species of Polygonum grown in wetland areas, but the Polygonum barbatum, the shoots of Polygonum barbatum are taken as vegetables, and they are also sold in market. Yes, this is Ipomia aquatica. Ipomia aquatica is very common in the local markets. You might have seen. So this is one important wetland aquatic flora. So sometimes they are considered as weed, but it is also important vegetable. Again, this is Trapanatans. Trapanatans, the nut is taken as food, normal food. They can be cooked or eaten raw, but in some cases the stem of Trapanatans are taken as vegetables. So this is important. Again, everyone knows this plant. This is lotus, and each and every part of the plant is edible. Firstly, the flower. uh, the flower is useful in so many, for so many purposes. The leaves are useful, but the young leaves are eaten, the roots are eaten, uh, the fruit are and the fruits are eaten. So I would say this is a highly economic uh, vegetables you can get from wetlands. Okay, this is Sagittaria trifolia. This plant is also very commonly found in wetlands, but people have less idea about this. The tuber of this plant is edible and very much nutritious. They are very nutritious and a high content of carbohydrate also. So sometimes in some countries this tuber is taken in is kept in for famine time. So these tubers, they are sold in nearby markets in this way. So let's see. Okay, this is Centella asiatica, important medicinal plant, as well as one important wild vegetables you can get from wetlands. Okay, it's important brain tonic. They're taken as brain tonic. Okay, this is Chenopodium album, important vegetables you can get from wetland. The shoots, the young soft shoots are taken as vegetables. Okay, apart from the vegetables, there are other vegetables, but let's go into some of the raw materials for building houses, for handicrafts, or for other purposes. So this is Phragmites carca. You might have seen this grown in very large mass in some important wetlands like Loktak Lake. You might have seen this in Chilika Lake. So there are so many places where this plant is grown in mass. So they are important wetland flora. And the important thing is the stems, when they are mature, they can be used for fencing, they can be used for thatch on top of the houses. So these are important raw material plants. Okay, this plant is from the Cyperaceae family. So this plant is also an important raw material for handicrafts. And what they do is they collect this plant, they grow this plant in mass, they collect it, they dry it, and weave it for so many handicraft products that are sold in market in a very high price. So again, this is Saccharum spontaneum. You can see the stem, the mature stems are strong, and they are used for making fences, they are used for making thatches. So these are also raw material for fencing and building houses. Okay, there are so many firewood collection that people collect such fuels from the nearby wetlands. Okay, when we talk about wetland, then grasslands are very important. So there, when you the grassland in wetland are important because many of the mammals, many of the herbivores, they graze upon it, and there are a huge diversity of grasses that you can find in almost all wetland area. So there are reeds. When we say reeds, they are considered as tall grasses. So you can find reeds growing which can be used as raw materials for so many building purposes, or On the other hand, they are the food for the herbivores. So that is why grasslands are very important in wetlands and the food web for the wetland ecosystem. Okay, when we say wetland again, without fishing, then wetland is incomplete because the people lying around the wetland, they make their livelihood from fishing, selling vegetables that is collected from wetlands. So that's why fishing is very important. So these are some of the freshwater wetland fishes that you can observe in almost all wetland areas. Okay, so when we say livelihood of the people around wetland region, then there will be fishing communities for sure, and there will be fishing for fishes, there will be fishing for shrimps, prawns, sometimes uh, crab. So any kind of aquatic foods they collect from the wetland area and then sold in a good price. So again, from wetlands you can get so many different kind of snails that are taken as food. So I have shown here some of the different types of snails. So they people take it as food, and as well as they are sold in market for other people. So they are highly priced and important food for the people. So let's talk about aquaculture. So aquaculture can be done in many places, but when it comes to wetland, what people do is they culture fishes or any aquatic food uh, in its natural habitat. So I'm giving you an example. In Loktak Lake, there is this ring formation that is formed, that is seen on top, from the top of the sky. So what is this? They are not natural. So the fumdis are the flat floating vegetation. From these fumdis they cut into small pieces joined together to form such rings, and they are they use such rings for a natural habitat aquaculture. So this is how they have done the aquaculture in this place. Likewise, for other wetland places, they have done aquaculture in a different way for that reason. So aquaculture is also common in wetlands. Again, people develop wetland nursery. When they develop wetland nursery, they choose the particular plants that are aquatic in nature, and they develop the system in which there is an inflow of water, and then they will uh, keep the water for some time, and then there is an place or exit point where the water get effluent, and it goes away. So this can be done in a economical way. So in tourism and recreation, there are a lot of recreational activities that are done in wetlands. When there is a very specific fauna, when there is a very specific avifauna, or any specific flora or the place that are very attractive, they are developed very well to attract tourists, and then people come for recreational activities. So they are also important for tourism and recreation. So here I have shown here the dolphin that is present in Chilika Lake, and then flamingos from Chilika Lake. So these are tourist attract attracting source, natural source. So that is how people attract tourists. Again, there are people come to wetlands for research purposes, for photography purposes, for birding, and then for other research purposes they come. So it is also important to analyze the ecosystem, or to document on its importance. Again, wetland birds. So again, without wetland birds, then it is incomplete to say that they are wetlands, because apart from the indigenous birds, aquatic birds, there are so many species of migratory birds that come every year in each wetland. So the number can be huge. And here I have shown some of the common wetland birds, like black winged teal, black-headed ibis, bronze-winged jacana, ruddy shelduck, purple swamp hen, painted stork, purple heron, cattle egret. So these are some of the wetland birds. But there is a huge number of birds available in different wetland region, and sometimes they can be very specific, and sometimes very threatened species can come only to a particular region of wetland. So that needs to be understood. Okay, this is flamingos at Chilika Lake. So let's talk a little about mangrove. So mangrove is another saltwater wetland. So it has a very ecological importance because they protect the coastline. So without mangrove, what would it happen? So if there is no this mangrove, then the water during cyclone, they could directly destroy the houses, the properties, the land nearby. But if there is mangrove forest, then because of that forest, the high tides, they can be stopped or protect the properties nearby. So this is how mangrove works in protecting the coastline. So this is Bhitarkanika mangrove, and again, another important saltwater mangrove from Odisha. And here I have shown the saltwater crocodile from the Bhitarkanika. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.